Now let's have a look. Let's see what we've got here. Oh, yes.
When I was growing up, I dreamed of travel and adventure.
Right, thank you.
Then one day, that dream came true.
This is it. I'm standing on the top of the world.
For 3 decades, I've been lucky enough to travel the world, making documentaries and sharing my adventures with millions of viewers.
Michael Palin set the tone for all travel TV today.
It's like a very friendly steamroller.
He came at the right time. He had the right daring qualities.
He has huge warmth, and it's a warmth that spreads across all kinds of people.
Bye-bye, Casimir. Oh, look at that.
Now, for the first time, I'm looking back.
Oh, God. My way of looking at each journey is something different, new, special, exciting, dramatic and challenging, and not really knowing exactly how it was going to turn out.
I'd made 3 travel series. 80 Days, Pole to Pole,
Sleep well?
and Full Circle. Those journeys all had a set route and a finish line. Now I was looking for a different kind of challenge. A trip that would take me to one of the most mysterious, least visited parts of the Earth.
My wife and I, we had some holidays. We went to Africa. We travelled to Tanzania and Kenya. And it was on the way back from one of these flights. I sort of woke up early in the morning and was looking at the flight map. There was Africa, and there was a great big sort of bare brown mass which took up most of northern and western Africa, the Sahara Desert. I remember looking at it and thinking, now that would be a challenge. It just looks totally empty, yet it's a vast area, and it can't be empty. There must be things there. I said, there's going to be something there. I'm sure we'll discover these things. Without knowing whether we would or not, I just bluffed it.
I love that that's how Michael Palin got the Sahara gig. I love that idea. Oh, I wonder what's down there. I'll come back and explore there. Isn't that brilliant? What a lucky man he is, but totally deserved.
I'd not travelled really in the Sahara at all, so it would be somewhere that would offer maximum surprise value, wonderment value, all those things that are important when you're starting to do a series. I was very much aware that it would be a difficult journey to do, but that was one of the advantages. If it had been easy to do, lots of people would have done it. I really wanted to show that the Sahara had a fascination, had a historical background, had a modern life there which just people never saw.
At 3,600,000 square miles, the Sahara is the largest hot desert on Earth. It covers much of North Africa, from Egypt in the east to Morocco in the west, and contains within it sprawling countries like Algeria, Mauritania, Mali, and Niger. Yet this vast land is only a short ferry crossing from Europe. Is there anywhere in the world where 2 places are so close yet so utterly different?
I think as travellers, we all have these places that you've always wanted to go. And so for Michael, flying over the Sahara and seeing the expansiveness of the desert and being really drawn to going to explore it, I think as travellers, we all sort of have those places and really identify with that. And then also, as travellers, understand that you go to these places and they might not be anything like you imagine them to be.
There's no way of reaching the Sahara without crossing the Atlas Mountains, a series of long, steep ranges that stretch right across Morocco. In amongst them are some of the oldest cities in North Africa. This is Fez, thought by many to be the most perfect medieval city in the Islamic world.
Yeah, city of arches and alleyways. Fez, which looked a bit severe from the outside, many doors closed, was in fact, you know, just preserving itself and a way of life, and a rather serene way of life, which I hadn't really expected and found fascinating.
Ah, good heavens. That is amazing.
It's exactly how it looked in the medieval time.
But it's extraordinary. First of all, from these narrow passageways, you've suddenly got so much space here.
Yeah.
But also this, I mean, I've never seen anything like that anywhere. That is incredible.
I was really reassured once we got into the desert that this was not going to be empty. There was not going to be somewhere where there was no activity at all. All the way along the route were reminders that there had been a great civilization in the Sahara. It gave me a feeling that we were doing the right thing. There was an enormous amount of history, activity then, and of course, now.
When I started to watch it, I thought, I don't really get it. Is it just he's going to a desert? Like, I didn't understand. And then you think, oh my God, there's, you know, such different cultures here. There's so much life and it's so different, and it's not just desert, it's a whole other world.
From Marrakesh, it's all uphill to the Sahara. Passing first of all through the land of the Berber people, one of whom is my companion Amina.
Are we already in the Berber
Yes,
villages?
we are. Yes, we are in the Berber villages.
They were the original inhabitants of Morocco before the Arabs came through, is that right?
Yes, absolutely. We don't quite know the origins, but they sure were here before the Arabs, yeah.
The Berbers are a minority in a predominantly Arab Morocco. So a dance like this is celebrating more than just a betrothal. It's celebrating the survival of their own culture.
Sahara wasn't a test of endurance, as Full Circle was, and Pole to Pole was in a certain way. It was less of just physical survival business and more actual, you know, relishing of what I was seeing, learning more about, you know, how people were and what they were doing.
When you watch some travel shows, it feels like the people who are there already know what they're talking about. And everything on Michael's journeys felt like a new experience.
As he's traveling, you know, you see the unedited version of his travels. You know, it feels really accessible. You feel, yes, you know, he is the kind of guy that I'd go on holiday with, and, you know, and that place is accessible. I know it's far-flung, but I could do it.
When Muslims talk about making a journey, they always add inshallah, God willing. It seems appropriate as we climb towards the highest pass on the Atlas Mountains. Inshallah. The last river sinks into the sand. The last salesmen make their pitch.
Kaz. Where we have a van, we have a Kaz. Kaz? How about D?
The dates were delicious, and they brought back a memory from my childhood, something that might help to explain my fascination with the Sahara.
My father was in charge of the export department of a steelworks. And every Christmas he received an enormous box of dates from their agent in Algeria. The illustration on the packet fueled powerfully romantic fantasies of somewhere hotter, drier, and even more exotic than South Yorkshire.
a place where men with turbans reclined under palm trees whilst their faithful camels stood in picturesque silhouette against the setting sun. Now, all those years later, I was actually about to visit that imaginary world. The Sahara is one of the harshest environments on Earth, but there are people for whom it's home, and a home worth fighting for, as I was to discover at my next destination. South and west of Morocco lies the disputed territory of Western Sahara. It was once a Spanish colony, but when they left in 1975, the Moroccans moved in. Those inhabitants who didn't want to be Moroccan were forced to flee. They were given land near Tindouf in Algeria for 4 temporary refugee camps, which is where they still are over a quarter of a century later.
The issue of refugees and people, stateless people within the Sahara area was going to be a strong theme. There were people crossing the Sahara all the time. There were people, so many people coming from sub-Saharan Africa to try to get into Europe. This was a very, very powerful issue, and these people had been in these camps in Algeria for many years, and they were kept going by this dream that they would eventually be allowed back to their own land.
The tankers shuttle back and forth across the desert, day in and day out. Without them, Sahara camp would die of thirst. My host Bashir has been a refugee for half his life. Well-educated and well-travelled, he lived for a while in Leeds.
How many people are there in this camp?
Yeah, in this camp, it's the second largest camp of refugees, and we have here something like 40,000 people.
40,000. Do people have to pay for their houses here? Do they have to pay any rent or anything?
Absolutely nothing.
But education is free?
Education is free, health is free.
Water?
Transportation.
Yeah.
It is a delicate balance between journalism and then, the beauty of the place. If you report on what you see, there will be beautiful moments, but you cannot deny, in some of these places, people are living in absolute hardship or how much they're impacted by the history. And you have to talk about that. And I think Michael must have learnt that. That must have been his progression along the way, and he did it beautifully.
Before my next camel dinner, I retire to the bathroom for a quick shower, whilst Bashir's wife, Krikeba, conjures up another meal for us all. Sadly, the hot water isn't working.
Bashir, he said you must come and stay. There are no hotels in the refugee camp, but my wife and I will put you up. We have a big sort of outbuilding where you can all sleep. And so we did, jam-packed a bit together, one loo dug into the ground, so it was fairly basic.
I suppose we're all quite sceptical now when we're watching things like this. Did he actually stay with them, or did he have a Winnebago sort of trailer brought around the back? I think we trust Michael, don't we? If Michael says he stayed with them, he did stay with them.
The considerable size of the cemetery, a scattering of rocks and boulders just outside the town, suggests that life expectancy is low. Bashir shakes his head vigorously. It is 70, 80 years. People don't die in the desert, he said. In that case, the size of the cemetery merely emphasises how long the Sahrawis have been away from home.
I was in the same camp nearly a decade after Michael, and it hadn't changed very much. People were still stuck out there in the desert.
So it's now been 45 years or so with nothing done. Now another generation is growing up who have not known their own country.
Leaving our new friends behind, We headed west, across the desert into Mauritania, land of the Moors. Zouarat is a company town. Rich iron ore deposits have turned this corner of the Sahara into a multi-million-dollar asset. Iron ore makes up almost half of Mauritania's foreign earnings, and production goes on round the clock to fill the huge trains that carry it away. Despite the presence of the mine, Zouarat has pockets of great poverty. Five years ago, this family were farmers, till drought forced them into the town. The outer wall of their tent is made from material once used to wrap mining explosive. I wanted to know how they stayed so happy.
Qu'est-ce que faites-vous le plus heureux? Quelle sorte de célébration?
There is in all of this not a trace of self-pity. They simply hope the rains will come and turn the desert green again, enable them to return to the life they know best. Meanwhile, home is a tent of explosive sacks behind a fence made of oil drums. What makes you happy, I ask? Even Mother, nervously twisting her beads, smiles as this is translated to them. They don't even have to think of the answer. Whatever God gives makes us happy. You know, having that spirit when they've got so little is really inspiring, moving. Whatever God gives makes me happy.
What makes you really happy?
Talk to somebody who's living in a house made of explosive wrapping and not be doing it from the point of, these people need your help. You know, it's like, this is their lives and this is their reality, and this woman actually is trying to look on the bright side of it. So it's more humanizing.
We start to recognize that, yeah, they live a different life, but there's a beauty to it, even amongst the difference and the poverty. Yeah, there's still an existence and a joy to it. And I think that is the case. I don't want to romanticize poverty. That's a terrible thing to do, but don't just demean and diminish other people's lives. Michael doesn't do that.
Often when you're travelling, you encounter people who are really having a tremendously difficult time, and it really makes you reassess all sorts of things about your own life. And I think that happened to Michael quite a lot. It certainly happened to me. It's a very humbling experience. And I think that is what is very special, actually, about that series.
It was my first time in this part of Africa, but if my previous trips to the continent had taught me anything, it was how to approach the question of train travel. I've got a ticket, but I'm not quite sure what for. The railway officials aren't over-helpful. Their primary role seems to be to stop anyone getting on.
I think he's very keen to let us on there.
That's the famous Palin boarding the train sequence. He doesn't know what the hell he's doing. The crew have just stood back. How has he got such an iron shirt there? Oh, I've been in that situation. Come on, quickly, Michael, the train's going to go. Fight your way through. Oh, it's chaos. I love it.
There was passenger accommodation at the back, but whether you got a ticket or not, you just had to go for it. But it is the only way of getting through Mauritania.
There's one last hope, the recycling bin at the back of the train.
I'm very confused, but I'm told this is first class.
Even though you make me forgive for thinking it was rubbish class. Go.
Allez-y, allez-y. Vous tirez. ما هو ماشي ما هو ماشي ما هو ماشي هو ما هو ماشي لا يقاف لا يوقف ما هو ماشي
The Iron Ore Express may take a while to get going, but then it is the longest train in the world. Probably. The train was carrying me west, towards the Atlantic coast and Senegal, a country which, like Mauritania and several others in this part of Africa, had once been part of the French Empire.
Down here it's like a huge department store. You've got handbags, ladies' underwear.
There really is no better way to get the feel of a country than on a train. My destination was Mali's capital, Bamako. Luckily, I wasn't in a hurry. My experience of African train schedules during the filming of Pole to Pole had taught me that they are flexible, and so must I be.
Our progress is a matter of considerable chance at the moment, whether we'll get there in 10 hours or 15 or 20 hours, we just don't know. It's in the lap of the gods.
The ancient town of Djenné, circled by the waters of the Bani River, is our next stop on the road to Timbuktu. I've hired a mobilette to drive myself around what many consider to be the most beautiful of all the cities of the Sahara.
The most striking thing about Mali, indeed about most of West Africa, is that it's, you know, that maybe it's a bit sandy, a bit drab, but the colours of the costumes are extraordinary. Everyone is dressed to kill. This is an everyday market, really, and yet almost everybody has got a different outfit from the other people. I think they're aware of their own beauty, their own sort of need to show that they've thought about what they're wearing. And there's boring old presenter in his Oxford button-down and jeans.
What tribe or people are you from?
I'm Fulani, I'm half Fulani.
You're Fulani?
Yeah.
All right, half Fulani. What's the other half?
My father, the other half.
Pygmy was my guide, very cheery.
Can you tell a Fulani woman here in the crowd?
Yeah. Example, she's a Fulani woman.
Yeah.
She's a Fulani girl.
Why?
She's the cousin of my wife.
Oh,
you can see during
the cousin of your wife. She just happened to find her here.
You can see him learning as he's going on his journey, which is crucial, because if he's not learning, then he can't pass anything on to the viewers. So it was always great to see his genuine excitement about something and a discovery, or just chatting to someone and getting some information out of them and him being genuinely interested in their lives.
These were not people oppressed by living in a sort of near-desert environment. They were sort of making absolutely the most of it and having, you know, there was a life there, and there was a future potential, even though a lot of these countries were quite poor.
Enthralling as Djenné was, it was time to move on, deeper into the desert. Not by train this time, but boat, up the River Niger itself. In a sense, this was the climax of my journey so far, because I was finally drawing close to surely one of the most legendary and evocative places in all of Africa, if not the world. Timbuktu.
The seeds have been sown a long time ago. In my case, I can remember the first book I was ever given by my dad was the Arabian Nights. It was all stories of sort of the desert world, the world of the Middle East and Africa and North Africa and all that. So there was a sort of sand dunes and that kind of world, and date palms and camels was never far from my mind. Well, here I am in Timbuktu. Never ever thought in my entire life I'd find myself in a place like this, but if you're interested in places, names, the significance of names and places, geography, Timbuktu is one of the great names. Great trading city of the Middle Ages in Africa, now quite run down, but still rather a thrill to be there.
Something nice about Sahara is the pace of it. They took more time in each individual place, and like seeing parts of Africa that we don't get to see day to day, it's fascinating. And they were so open to him being there as well.
15e ou 4e?
14e siècle.
14e.
14e siècle. 14e siècle. De ces planètes.
It's actually a nicer way to do the journey, is to pause and meet the people, and because of course that's what it's all about. Otherwise we can be a little bit, you know, touristic about these things. It is about meeting the people. When there's characters you meet along the way who you can vibe with and have conversation with, that definitely helps, especially if you're stopping long enough to really get to know them a little bit. And I think over the course of Michael's career, that those pauses became longer, and that adds its own magic.
The reason to travel is for people, and as a result, there'll always be an almost infinite number of stories to hear, because we as a species are always changing and developing and shifting and moving and being born and dying. So you can never hear enough stories out there. You can never meet enough people, I think.
You have a chance to sort of have some very intense views of fairly small tribes and how they worked and their life and why they did what they did, where they travelled to, how they dressed, what their problems were. So we're looking at fewer people but much more intensely.
East of Timbuktu, the Sahara is virtually inaccessible to all but the nomads who move their cattle across it. Once a year, they all have a get-together at Ingal in the Republic of Niger. These are the Wadabi, a tall, elegant people thought originally to have come from Ethiopia. They walk and ride hundreds of miles every year, seeking pasture for their cattle. Recent rains have brought food and water, and they must take every advantage of these conditions to fatten their cattle. The Wadabi grow no food, so without the animals they would not survive. The fattening of the animals on the salt grass is celebrated at an annual festival called Cure Salé, the Salt Cure. This great gathering of the nomadic clans is now only days away. And as I discovered, a key part of these celebrations is a remarkable courting ritual, the Gerawal.
When you got to see the tribe, all these rituals that they had, it's fascinating. It's incredible. And for that to be captured on camera, and I hope long may those traditions continue, and that, you know, the Western world doesn't impose and try and change them.
And do the girls, do they choose one boy?
Yes.
They go up and they put their hand on them?
Yes, maybe one woman, maybe two.
Ah,
if you're supposed to be.
Ah.
Yes.
Guided by the mistress of ceremonies, each girl walks the line until contact is made and the choice announced in the traditional way. Now the worst is over. Her chosen one will meet up with her later. He's hers for the night.
There's an ease and there's sort of investigation, but in a lovely, curious way. It's about curiosity, really, and about really taking one step at a time. And I think that is really what Michael Palin does so well.
For me, the Wadabi are some of the most remarkable people I've met on any of my travels. Their way of life felt like something outside time. But of course, this was an illusion. They lived in the 21st century like the rest of us. A world that, although it felt far away, was about to deliver a shock.
I'm standing on the small roof terrace of the Pensione Telit in Agadez. There's only one tall building in town, and that's the minaret of the Grand Mosquée, a pyramid of mud, stones and projecting wood beams which rises high above the surrounding town. I'm staring at it now as my wife, on the other end of a satellite phone, is describing the almost unbelievable destruction of two other iconic towers, 6,000 miles away in New York. We're in Niger, which I think is the sort of second poorest country in the world. The people there weren't moved at all by what was happening in New York. They barely knew about it. But by the end of the journey, I was aware that there were problems that were going to be exacerbated by what had happened in New York. Some of the jihadi groups working in the Sahara, which had been fairly small, were beginning to were encouraged by what had happened.
In the years that followed, many of the places we visited in the Sahara became overrun by Islamic extremists. Travel to much of Mali and Niger became all but impossible. And tragically, Timbuktu was an inaccessible place once more. We were now deep in the Sahara, some 2,000 miles from the sea, and we were about to go deeper, on foot, accompanying a camel train in temperatures of up to 55 degrees centigrade. We're ready to go. Everything we need for the journey has to be carried on the backs of the camels, except, of course, fresh food, which walks alongside. Anyway.
If you really want to get to the heart of the Sahara Desert and the people who live in the heart of the desert, you have to really go with the Tuareg. They're the main nomads who take the camel trains with salt going across the desert. The old way of life. And we were very lucky to find a group who were happy to take us across the desert, the hottest, most difficult part of the desert.
Midday, peak of heat, we're seeking a tree. You just have to keep drinking lots and lots of water, that's obvious. The other thing which is nice about it is just you go at the camels sort of dictate the pace, but also the mood. It's the sort of continuous sort of unchanging rhythm.
I mean, trekking with camels across the Sahara sounds like a fun thing to do for half a day, but to keep doing it for like the best part of a week, I think the novelty would wear off after a while, wouldn't it?
The main social event of the day is the evening meal, usually bread, dates and cheese. But tonight, in my honour, there'll be a stew as well. Everyone has a job to do. Omar and Isambah slaughter the sheep. Osman bakes bread in a sand oven, and Musa plats some fresh twine to secure the camel loads. I'm still recovering. Thick and coarse and heavy and It's more like cake, really. Like a chunk of cake used to have at school. That's hard, crispy outside. Very good. Tagilla. You see, you can have a joke with them. They're absolutely a good sense of humour. They laughed at me a lot. I don't know whether they laughed with me, I don't know, but they thought I was kind of quite character.
I think his persona is such a huge part of why people enjoy these documentaries so much. He just seems like such a lovely person. He's the type of person I feel like you would be happy to be stuck on a freight ship in the Pacific.
You have to get the emphasis right. Tadilla probably means, you know.
Humour is a very dangerous and yet potent tool, and it all depends on where the humour lies. I think Michael, by and large, walks that path really well, because you can see in his heart he's a humanist. He loves people, and so it's soft, it's gentle, it's not pointed in any way.
Yeah. Now what do we do? Oh. For me? Yeah. Oh, thank you. Is that? No. He's very hot.
He's always very respectful. That's always the thing. If the joke is on you, because the joke is on him there, and that's what he's very clever at, is the joke is always on him. It's never about, oh, look at that funny person, oh, look at that funny food, oh, this food's horrible. It's not that. It's a subtle difference, but he nails it.
Finally, the scorching sun set, and we made camp, a tiny, comforting haven in the immense emptiness that surrounded us. This indeed was the desert of my imagination.
Documentaries up to that point, it seemed very arm's length. It was like you observed everything, you didn't get involved in the people or really that involved in the place. You know, it was a very British thing to do, very kind of stiff upper lip and a bit starched. He was just so funny and so warm and lovely and just open, really open to anything that happened. It was a real adventure to him, and you sort of shared that adventure with him.
Cheers. En anglais,
cheers.
Nous disons cheers. Cheers. Down the hatch. Bottoms up. Bottoms up. Bottoms up. Bottoms. Bottom. Bottoms. Up. Yeah, hey, great. Bottoms up.
Bottoms up.
Bottoms up.
Bottoms up.
Wow. Genius. I mean, that's such a lovely scene.
God bless Her Majesty.
Yeah, you really feel it there. You feel the rapport, the connection. And that's what you get when you put the time in, you know. He did the walking, he was there on the ground, and that's the reward. It's like a warmth, a real warmth of friendship, and it's really beautiful to see.
Merci. Merci au Marc-Antoine. Bon voyage. Bon vivre. Hey, fine. Merci, merci. 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 Merci, merci pour tout. Merci pour tout. Hey. I like that shirt, don't you? You always like the shirt. Okay. Au revoir, merci.
Bottoms up.
One of the nicest things to see is that people were always really sad to see him go. They were always hugging him, and everyone was coming out of the woodwork. He wanted to say goodbye to everybody. And I think that's so nice to see that, but that he had such time for everybody, but that people made such a connection with him. You can feel how genuine a person he is, and that was just so lovely, I think, to see that, all of that.
My journey was nearly at an end. From the heart of Niger, we made our way back towards Europe, across Algeria, Libya, and Tunisia.
Caspar sounds like it's coming to life. Things are happening.
As I finally crossed back to Gibraltar, I felt a sense of regret that the friends I'd made in the Sahara would be seen by some Europeans as a threat.
There is certainly a pre-9/11 world and a post-9/11 world. Michael wanted to bring us as much of the world as possible, with a lightness of touch like he can, to try and make sense of things. It's vital that these sorts of shows exist. You need people like Michael Palin to calm everything down and to bring you those magical stories from places you'd never heard of or you'd never ever get the chance to go to.
It's not bonkers beyond Calais. You often get a warmer welcome there than you do here. So I think that comes across in Michael's programmes, but it is something you have to learn.
I was 45 when I started travelling. I've lost count of the countries I've visited and the people I've met. But at the heart of it all has been the satisfaction of seeing others as we see ourselves, not as strangers, but as partners, living, working, and hopefully protecting the world we all share.
Physically, I probably couldn't do all those things now. I don't particularly mind that. I'll still travel, I'll still read, I'll still think about my own journeys and what I've learnt from them, and I'll still be curious. But what this has done is enabled me to explore and remember things that I've not yet expressed before. So it's really like looking into a very, very nice, busy old, storeroom. And climbing up and finding, oh, here's another bit. Which I suppose to some people will say, oh, yeah, God, I hope he doesn't find any more. But I've enjoyed it.